Hey guys, AllyZieMage here, and today we are going over how I've managed to cut down my food waste by using companies that give consumers produce that would usually not be deemed fit for the grocer because of FDA standards. So you may have heard of companies like Misfit Market and Imperfect Foods, and I think Hungry Harvest is another one, and I know that there's a bunch of others because once I started subscribing to one of these, like 1,500 showed up on my Instagram. But the premise of these companies is that they will go directly to farmers and purchase the food that they cannot sell to a grocer. This is usually food that is oddly shaped, a little small, a little large, or getting close to expiring. Usually it's not that last one, depending on the company you're purchasing from. Essentially what happens is that because these farmers are no longer losing out profit or not having to throw away the food, they end up having a better deal through these companies like Misfit Market. So then it's cheaper for the consumer to purchase it in bulk from, or not in bulk, but like as a package from Misfit Market, things like that. So I got boxes from two different companies, Misfit Market and Imperfect Foods, and if you can already tell, I liked Misfit Market better. That's why I kind of keep saying their name. And this video is going to go over why I think Misfit Market is better for me than Imperfect Foods, and also I think in general this applies. However, both are good options. A comment that I saw a lot on the internet when I was doing research into these companies is that people were speculating how much produce is actually being saved, especially since a lot of this overstock or ugly produce goes to canned goods or delivered to banks if it cannot be sold, like food banks, if it cannot be sold at the grocery store. So there are testimonials from the farmers themselves that are part of this transaction that the produce is saved, that there is times that produce would go to rot into their fields because they couldn't do anything with it. Also, the companies like Misfit Market will compensate food banks that would have originally received produce from these farms monetarily, so that the food banks do still have options to be able to purchase food. So because there is that compensation, food banks hopefully aren't being affected by this that much. So outside of all those possibly controversial things of is this actually saving food from going to waste from the farms, I personally think that it saves me from wasting food. One of the biggest problems that I come into is that I live in an apartment with two people, me and my boyfriend. I definitely eat more produce than my boyfriend does, so a lot of the produce I'm buying is usually set for a family of 4 because that's the American standard, and it's supposed to last that family of 4 more than one meal. So I'm buying food for like 4 to 8 people, and there's no way I can go through that before it goes bad, even if my boyfriend helps me. What Misfit Market does, and Imperfect Foods and Hungry Harvest and all these companies, is that it's a weekly box and you can say how many people you're purchasing for, which means that you can fine tune it better so that you're getting less produce. For example, I get 3 to 4 potatoes and apples at a time instead of getting like a large bag. I know that at grocery stores you are able to hand pick how much produce you want, but those tend to be a little bit more expensive than buying it in a prepackaged bag. Additionally, there's items that you can't do that with, like asparagus. But through Misfit Market, Imperfect Foods, Hungry Harvest, etc., you will get a smaller amount of asparagus than if you went to the store and bought it. I know in my previous video about sustainability, I was showing how I have my own mesh bags for produce that I'll bring to the grocery store. Misfit Market, at least, does not use any plastic bags really at all. That means that I can just take the vegetables from the box and put them into my own bags, and it means that there isn't like the chance of me forgetting my mesh bags at home and going to the store and be like, oh god, I don't have mesh bags. Where am I going to put my apples? There's also things at the grocery store that you can't help but get in a plastic bag, like if you're getting potatoes in bulk, apples in bulk. I know that it at least saves me from wasting food because I'm actually getting an amount of food that I can go through in a week before it goes bad. I do want to make the disclaimer that this isn't completely wiping out all of my food waste. There are still times I am throwing away produce because it either came to me already going bad, so there are times that I have found mold on the produce gained from these companies, or it's a food that I don't like, such as celery. I hate celery. Oh my god, I tried eating again recently and I can't do it, man. I can't do it. It just tastes awful. But that brings me to the pros and cons of each of these boxes. Again, this is only over Misfit Market and Imperfect Foods. I don't have a breakdown of both of them. So first, let's go through all the produce that I got from Misfit Market. To start off with, we've got some tomatoes and some red plums. Celery, the bane of my existence. Some frise, it's a bitter lettuce. 1 apple. Two apple. Got an onion. But wait, there's another onion. Got a yellow squash, a butternut squash, a small green pepper, a mango, and a couple of red potatoes. This was about a pound of red potato, I believe is what it said. A beet. This was a very big beet. And then this is all the produce that I got from Imperfect Foods. Some green onions to start with, the carrots in the plastic packaging, spinach, a couple of ears of corn, some mushrooms in the normal grocery store packaging, some clementine oranges, a nice couple of apples, and in that middle one you can see that there's already a hole in it. Some mint for drinks, some garlic, cauliflower, some shallots, some cilantro, a couple of tiny avocados, a few lemons, an onion, sorry, 2 onions, a few limes, and 2 nectarines, and another pound of potato. Now the pros and cons of what I think about both of these companies. So for Misfit Market, the box is good for 2 people. I got the mischief box, and then there's a bigger box too. And so far there is no single-use plastic, nothing that like I have to bring to the grocery store to get recycled. The tomatoes that I got did come in a small plastic box. There's that plastic, but that is easily recyclable instead of the plastic bags, which are a bit harder to recycle. It's a flat rate for a non-customizable box. When you first sign up for Misfit Market, you can't customize what you're getting in your purchase. You just say, I want a box of produce, and then it sends it to you. And that's how I ended up with food that I didn't know how to use and food that I don't like. But it is a flat $22. With shipping, it was shipping and tax was about $27. I did the math of looking at all the produce that I got, how much I paid for it at the $27 mark, and how much it would have cost me to buy that at Wegmans, which is the place that I trust the most for produce in Massachusetts. It was 22 to 25% cheaper than the grocery store, which lives up to its advertisement. The advertisement says 25%. I put it in a range because there were some things I couldn't find a direct match for, because everything in Misfit Market is organic, and there are some things that Wegmans had, but not an organic version of. And to note on that is that the Wegmans amount does not include tax or the cost of car. So whether you're Ubering there, using gas, that was not included in it. It was just a flat base price. So the savings is still probably more than that 22 to 25% that I calculated. They also sell grains and boxed goods. And what I like about this is that these are usually items that are close to an expiry date, but because they're grains and boxed goods, they usually don't actually go bad on the expiration date, or they were mislabeled. Items that would have already been thrown out that they're able to salvage. It's kind of like Aldi in a way, because there's nothing actually wrong with that stuff. It's just not marketable. The cons that I have for Misfit Market is that it is only on the East Coast. Every single state that I list on the East Coast, it services every single zip code in that state with the exception of Massachusetts because they cannot ship to Nantucket Island easily or Martha's Vineyard. But you're not able to customize your order at first. So I've been invited to customization with Misfit Market. I can talk about that a little bit. Did not have that option the first time, which is how I ended up with celery and beets. Beets I didn't know how to cook, and celery... And going back to the state thing is that it does deliver to 27 out of the 50 states. Hawaii and Alaska I know for sure are not them. So that's like in general what I thought about Misfit Market. I'll talk about that after I talk about Imperfect Foods. First box you get, you can customize it. However, you do have to hit a certain threshold before it ships, and that's either $30 or $35. And then there's tax and shipping on top of that. The value of your box changes, so every week you could be paying a different amount for your box. When I did the math, it ended up being 3% cheaper than the grocery store, which does not live up to the advertisement that they gave, that I believe it was supposed to be a 20 to 25% cheaper than the grocery store, just like Misfit Market. They do sell meat, fish, grains, and boxed goods as well, so unlike Misfit Market, who does not sell meat or fish, they do sell all of that, so pretty much anything you could get at the grocery store. I'm a little scared of ordering meat and fish online, but that is an option. They don't state on their website that it's meat, fish, or boxed goods that would either otherwise be going to waste. They kind of state it in a way that's just like, we're doing this just so that you can have it. They have limited plastic use. This is kind of like one of those medium things that's like, I don't know if this is good or bad. It's bad compared to Misfit Market, but it's better than the grocery store. That most items are not in plastic bags, but there are some items that don't need to be in plastic bags that are, such as carrots. They have more diverse areas of service, so not only are they just on the East Coast, but they're also on the West Coast. Again, if you're in the Rocky Mountain region though, tough luck. Also, it does not guarantee all zip codes in the states that they do service, so if you live in a rural area in Massachusetts, you might not be able to get get this. Boxes are good for families or people who eat a lot of vegetables. It was a little too much food for 2 people. We are throwing more away from the Imperfect Foods box than we are from the Misfit Market box. It was less food than I would have gotten at the grocery store, but more food than what I could go through in a week. So overall, especially for 2 people, and especially if you're trying to reduce your carbon footprint and your environmental impact, I would suggest Misfit Market. It has great savings. It has great coverage in the states that it does service. The food was pretty good. There was nothing wrong with it, and none of it really went bad before we could use it, except for the celery, because I don't eat celery. I hate it so much, and that's what half this video is just me complaining about celery. How Misfit Market's customization works is that you are given 3 different categories, and you choose a certain number of vegetables from each category, and then they ship it for the same price. So it's still $22. It doesn't change the price that you're paying, and you do get some options, but you don't have like an unlimited option. So I know that I'm getting 12 items in my box coming on Tuesday. This is Sunday. So I'm excited. I would recommend both these companies, especially if you have a household that has 2 people that eat fruits and veggies regularly, or if you have a family of 3 or more. Or in the case of one of my friends, if you have a hamster? Guinea pig. Small mammal creature that eats vegetables. In general, both these boxes are good, and I don't think the cons of Imperfect Foods makes it worse than going to the grocery store. It is still good. I just have a better option that I can use. But the main 2 reasons why I recommend this is that there's a decent chance that you're saving produce from going to waste, and that the charities that would usually receive it are getting compensated, which is super important that we're not taking away from things that need this more. Additionally, it reduces my food waste, so I assume it'll probably reduce your food waste as well, and especially on customizable deliveries where you know where you're getting a few days in advance, so you can either put additional add-ons on the box that you purchase, or you can go to the grocery store around the same time that your box would show up to buy any supplemental ingredients you need to make certain recipes. Those are my thoughts on Misfit Market and Imperfect Foods. I imagine that boxes like Hungry Harvest are going to be similar, so if that is what can service your region, please, by all means, if you're interested in this, go purchase that one as well. Don't just take the 2 opinions that I managed to formulate here. Links are in the description, or codes are in the description of if you want to money off of your boxes. I don't know off the top of my head how much it is off of each box if you use those codes. They're not affiliate codes. This is not sponsored whatsoever. It's just that if you have an account, they're like, hey, give these to your friends as a referral and they'll get money off and you'll get money off. Hope you have yourself a magical day, and I shall see you the next time. Bye.